Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Tuesday, it's not Tuesday, it is Wednesday. The bank holiday has gotten me all confused, and that mixed with Everton going away from home and just being boss at footy for once. I actually felt like what it would feel like to support a football team that, generally is just really good at football. I mean, to think that some supporters have that experience nearly every single week is beyond me. How can they possibly cope with sitting down to watch their football team away from home and watching them just be absolutely boss and blather whoever they're playing and just comfortably win the game? How can they possibly cope with doing that week in, week out? I've done it once, my head has just completely fallen off. It is the game review. Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Everton 5. Yes, I will repeat that again. Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Everton 5 on Monday evening. A result that none of us seen coming. Even the most optimistic and the most enthusiastic Evertonians maybe could have seen us winning this game, maybe could have seen us, getting something out of this game, but I think even the most enthusiastic and optimistic Blues would never, ever, ever have thought that we'd go there and perform in the way that we did. Not only did we go and win, but we won away from home, which we know is a rarity, not just this season, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. Throughout my life as an Evertonian, I can remember us being alright away from home under David Moyes, but other than that one season under Carlo Ancelotti that we all watched from home during COVID, from my memory, Everton have always been absolutely horrific away from home for the majority of my life. So not only have we gone and won a game, which is a rarity in itself at the moment, we've done it away from home, but not only have we done that, we've gone to a side that have had a really good season and a really good footballing team, have gone from one, really good progressive manager to the next in De Zerbi, who's done a fantastic job since he's been there, a team that for me deserve to finish in one of the European positions and probably will finish in one of the European positions, and we absolutely wiped the floor with them. We done to Brighton what Brighton have done to so many teams this season at the Amex and so many teams over the last couple of seasons at the Amex as well. It's notoriously one of the most difficult grounds to go to and be able to play well, and Everton went there with 23% possession and just absolutely wiped the floor with them. Absolutely wiped the floor with them. What was that? I'm still not quite over it. I still don't quite understand where that performance come from. Not only have we not witnessed Everton win a game emphatically for a while, but we've not witnessed Everton go to a side who are in good form, who've had a decent season, and wipe the floor with them. For years, Everton don't do that. Everton don't wipe the floor with teams. So what went on there? Has anybody, 48 hours after the game, has anybody got an explanation as to what quite happened on Monday night? Because I still am in disbelief, to be perfectly honest with you. Don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely buzzing and I'm over the moon, but I'm still in disbelief at what actually happened and how it went down. It was a truly phenomenal performance. And when we sat here on, Friday evening and we done the game preview, and I titled the game preview, Will Sean Dyche Shock Us? And by that I meant, will he shock us by putting Yerry Mina in the side? Will he shock us by, maybe dropping Michael Keane? Will he shock us by going for the game? Will he shock us by making a couple of decisions that he's been hesitant to make or hasn't made in recent weeks? And he did all of that, but he also shocked us by setting this Everton team to go out and completely wiped the floor, as I said, with one of the most informed teams in the league, and none of us expected that. So, the question on Friday was, can Sean Dyche shock us? And the answer is yes, he absolutely can shock us. It was, as I said, a phenomenal performance, and one that may well be the catalyst to Everton staying in the Premier League this season. I said a week or so ago after we were beaten by Newcastle that I felt like it would take a miracle for Everton to stay up. Last season We had the coach greetings, we had, a couple of important wins against Chelsea, Manchester United, the Goodison, etc. We had the win against Leicester. We had, players like Richarlison who were, scoring goals and coming up big in big moments. This season we haven't had any of that. So it did really feel like we needed a miracle to be able to stay in this division. And I said after Newcastle, it didn't need to be that way. We could have won one game and all of a sudden we'd have been in the best position out of the teams around us. We didn't win that one. We then went and, only managed to get a point out of Leicester, which was a very winnable game, and the performance would suggest we maybe should have won that game. And then we went and done what we done on Monday night. And now, okay, Forest ended up winning as well and beating Southampton, and they sit above us. But now, for me, all of a sudden, it seems to be in our hands again. And it's a miracle in itself that Everton's Premier League status is in their own hands this season. Because when you think about how poor we've been and the fact that we've been without a goal scorer for the majority of the season, and some of the games that we've lost and some of the home games that we've lost, it's an absolute miracle that going into the final 3 games of the season, we sit here and say, it's in Everton's hands. I sat here, a couple of weeks ago when we done the prediction, or a week or so ago when we done the prediction video, and we looked at, the teams around us and the fixtures that, the teams have got left, etc. And I said that I felt if Everton could get 6 points, that would keep us up. I said 5 points, I believed, would keep us up on goal difference, 6 points would keep us up on points. I did not think 3 of those points would come against Brighton. And then you look at our remaining fixtures, and okay, Manchester City at the weekend will be extremely difficult because of, the way Manchester City are, how good they are, and generally the way they perform at this time of year. But you've then got Wolves and Bournemouth, and if you can go and win one of them, I think we'll be okay. And realistically, on the performance of Monday night, if we perform like that against Wolves, I think we've got every chance of beating them. And if we perform like that against Bournemouth last day of the season, Goodison Park, we've got every chance of winning that game as well. So all of a sudden, we've gone from absolutely no hope to staying in the division, and with one performance, it's sort of completely changed. And obviously, I said this yesterday in the in the play ratings, you have to contextualise the performance, and you have to look at it in the context of the entire season. And one really, really, really good night and one really good result and one really good display doesn't change the fact that Everton have been absolutely horrific all season. And if we go out and get absolutely hammered by Manchester City, which is very possible, and then lose to Wolves, then all of a sudden this Brighton game becomes a little bit less important, because then it all goes down likely to the last game of the season against Bournemouth to stay in the division. And, I remember last season how happy and how overjoyed I felt when we'd beaten Leicester away from home, and we'd won those 2 games on the bounce. We'd beaten Chelsea, we'd beaten Leicester, and we were all absolutely buzzing. I remember sitting there saying, well, if we go and beat Watford away, in the following week, a Watford team who hadn't picked up a point for something like 12 years or something stupid like that, then if we go and beat them away, then we'll be safe. And then we didn't win that game. And then it was, well, if we beat Brentford at home, they're safe, they've got nothing to play for, then we're safe. And we didn't win that game. And then all of a sudden, I thought back before about how I felt when we were 2-0 down to Crystal Palace at Goodison, and the anxiety and the upset, and just feeling like that was it, we were gone. And that feeling come after the extreme high of the Leicester game, when we all sat here and very optimistically looked at the remaining fixtures of last season. So it isn't over by any sense of the imagination, and there is still work to do, and there is still hard work to do. And as I said, it is important to put this win in the context of the situation. We still need to go out, and ultimately we need to go and, for me, pick up at least 4 points in the next 3 games. Now, okay, I think 3 generally will keep us up, but to save the anxiety on the last game of the season, because you don't know, nobody expected Everton to go out and beat Brighton in the way that we did. No Evertonian expected it, Forest fans wouldn't have expected it, Leeds fans wouldn't have expected it. So when you look at the remaining fixtures, and it's easy to look and go, well, Chelsea will beat Forest there, and Newcastle will win that game, or Liverpool will beat Leicester next week. You never know. One of those teams could pick up a result that has us all sitting there going, how have they managed that? Exactly like Everton have just did on Monday night. So, realistically, it isn't all over. However, having said that, I also do think it's important to enjoy this win and to milk as much as possible from this win. And I'm doing exactly that, by the way. I'm getting, the full tea towel of water and rinsing it full of enjoyment to make sure every little drop of enjoyment that we could possibly get from this win, we do get, because we haven't seen many of these. ever, not in my lifetime as an Evertonian, and by many of these I mean, games of football where Everton have just gone out and just completely dominated and bladdered the team. And by dominated, obviously I know Brighton had all of the possession, etc, etc, but I've said this before and I will say it again, I have witnessed Real Madrid win Champions Leagues playing like that. Nobody cares about how much possession you've got. Nobody cares if you've got 4% possession at the end of the game. If you've won the game 2-3, 4-0 because your counter-attacking has been absolutely spot on, then nobody's asked about the possession. I don't care that we only had 23% possession. I don't care that Brighton had twice the amount of shots on goal that we did and 3 times the amount of possession that we did. What I cared about is we scored 5 goals and they only scored 1, and we won the game emphatically. So it is important that we enjoy this, and it's important that we take all of the enjoyment from it, and it's important that, ultimately the players and the manager as well take the confidence from this. Players like Dwight McNeil, players like Abdoulaye Doucouré take all of the confidence from this performance into the remaining 3 games of the season to ultimately go and pick up more points, because as I said, this is far, far from over. As much as we might look at this, and it's easy to sit here as a fan and go, yeah, well, 3 more points will keep us up, and it's easy for pundits to sit there and go, another 3 points for Everton and they'll stay up, because then you just look at it, you look and you think, well, okay, we've got Bournemouth on the last day of the season, so if we win that, packed out Goodison, then we'll stay up. But A, we don't want it to go down to the last game of the season, because the nerves and the anxiety will be horrendous, and B, that is on the basis that, people are looking at Leicester and thinking they'll definitely lose X, Y, and Z game, or people are looking at Forest and say they'll definitely lose X, Y, and Z game, and the majority of the country will have looked at that game on Monday night and said Everton will definitely lose that, and we didn't. We won, and we won quite emphatically. Just mad, isn't it? But exactly what we deserved. And listen, I've criticised the manager numerous times over the course of the last 2 months about his decision making, both in-game decision making, team selection, his necessity to persist with certain players that simply just aren't good enough, his avoidance of other players that very clearly are good enough and fit, but he won't play them for whatever reason. And Sean Dyche completely turned that on its head on Monday night. And listen, he made the decision that every one of us was screaming for. The decision that every one of us was screaming for was Yerry Mina to come in. And the moment he made that decision, not only was I absolutely over the moon, but I remember thinking, right, okay, Mina's in now, Michael Keane's out, we've ultimately got to go and Yerry Mina's got to go and show himself why, or show the manager why he simply should be in there week in, week out. And listen, Yerry Mina's likely to leave Everton Football Club in the summer. His contract's up, and I highly doubt he will get a new contract for various different reasons, injuries, wages, etc, etc. However, he is still contracted to Everton for the final 3 games of the season, and if Yerry Mina is fit for those final 3 games of the season, which again is a big if, because when was the last time he played 4 games on the bounce? But if he is fit, then he absolutely should be in the starting 11, because it is without a doubt Yerry Mina is our best centre-half, and he showed that again at the weekend, on Monday night, not only because we won the game 5-1, but just his general play as a centre-back. James Tarkowski looked so much better next to him because of, obviously Tarkowski's confidence in Yerry Mina as a centre-back, and his confidence and his belief in Yerry Mina's ability to, to defend and to be a presence, and to ultimately put himself about and frustrate forwards and get under people's skin, etc. But Mina himself, we made one block where, can't remember who it was, I don't know whether it was Solly Marsh before he went off or McAllister, one of the Brighton players had a curling effort that was, curling beyond Jordan Pickford and into the goal, and Yerry Mina just stood straight and it just hit him in the face, and he didn't go down holding his face, he didn't duck, he didn't back out of it, he stood straight, he let it hit him in the face, and we moved on. And it's bits of defending like that you don't get out of Michael Keane, and you probably don't get out of Conor Cody either, but you certainly don't get out of Michael Keane. There's the stats will tell you that Everton have a much better win rate when Yerry Mina plays to when Yerry Mina doesn't play, and that's not ironic, that's not a coincidence, that's just fact. It's because Yerry Mina is head and tails our best centre-back. Now, okay, he's got his issues, and as I said, it is a question as to whether or not he'll be available for the next 3 games, because when has he been available for 4 games on the spin? And okay, you could say, well, he's been available for months and he just hasn't been played, but, if you're not playing, then you are going to be available, aren't you? Because he's got no way of getting injured. Be interesting to see how he plays against Manchester City, and if he plays that full 90, will he then be able to play the full 90 against Wolves the week later? The reality is if he can and if he is fit, he needs to play, and Sean Dyche, I think, has seen that. And I said it, I think, in the instant match reaction, I don't want to be, an Evertonian that sits in and goes, haha, I told you so, because look, it's evident that Sean Dyche knows more about Premier League football and knows more about these players and knows more about who his best team is and who the best players are than I do, but that just seemed like a very, very, very obvious decision. A very obvious decision, and when you look at the performance on Monday night, it proves right, and, it wasn't the only difference maker. I thought Dwight McNeil was astonishing. I thought Abdoulaye Doucouré was fantastic. I thought Dominic Calvert-Lewin was another massive difference maker. And listen, this isn't ultimately down to Sean Dyche's fault, because it's not like he's not been playing, Dom. But I don't care what anybody says. People say, oh, he's a championship striker, this, that, and the other. Dominic Calvert-Lewin didn't score a goal on Monday night and was still a 9 out of 10 for me. For everything else he did, he was absolutely unbelievable. His performance was spot on. From the first goal, where he does that little turn, which he seems to have perfected recently, because every time he does it, he gets himself some space and he either gets a shot away or he gets himself into an area to create a chance. His physicality, he moves players out the way. If you look at Abdoulaye Doucouré's second goal, just before Dwight McNeil puts the cross into the box, the reason as to why Abdoulaye Doucouré is left on his own at the back post is, well, A, because Abdoulaye Doucouré's ran 60 yards to get there, which is a massive compliment to Abdoulaye Doucouré, but also because 3 Brighton defenders are fixed on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And where Dominic Calvert-Lewin is on the, in the box, 3 of them go towards Dominic Calvert-Lewin and completely leave Abdoulaye Doucouré behind him on his own. If that's Neil Maupay, for example, and I'm not just digging Neil Maupay out for the sake of it, I'm just using him as an example because he's the next option to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. They don't do that. They don't follow him, Neil Maupay, like that. They're not attracted to him because he hasn't got the same physical presence. He hasn't got the same ability on the ball. He hasn't got the same, quality as a striker. So all of a sudden, they have a little look round, or one of the Brighton defenders goes, actually, I don't need to follow him because they'll be all right with him. I'll look around. Oh, shit, here's Doucouré behind me. I'll go and sack him. They don't do that with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. They get attracted to him, and that leaves that space in behind. And, as I said, it's difficult for a striker to put in a pretty much faultless, perfect performance and not score a goal. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin did that on Monday night. He was outstanding, and yeah, as I said, as critical as I've been of Sean Dyche of late, and as critical as I've been of his tactics and his decision making and his ultimately his ability, or I've questioned his ability to get us out of this position, and that's because in recent weeks I've watched Everton performances and I've watched Everton games and I've not sort of been sure what the manager's trying to do or how the manager's trying to get results and performances. I've just been confused as to what his plan has been. We could quite clearly see what his plan was on Monday night, and it worked at seat, and everything was right, and there was so many areas and there was so many moments in that game where the manager could have tweaked something it's something tiny and it would have made a massive difference, and he didn't do it. He stuck. And again, one word I've used recently an awful lot is bravery. Has Sean Dyche got the bravery to get Everton out of this situation? And after the game against Leicester, I sat here and said I don't think he has got the bravery to get Everton out of the situation, because he didn't make those substitutes with 15 minutes to go. He didn't go for the game. Well, on Monday night against Brighton, he did very much have the bravery, because there were a couple of moments where he could have changed it. Could have changed it at 1-0 in the first 33 seconds. He could have went, right, everyone behind the ball and just pure defend. Now, don't even worry about counter-attacking. We're 1-0 up, defend this lead. He didn't. He persisted with it. We went and got the second. Could have changed it at half-time, 3-0. Brought, Conor Cody on, put a 5 at the back and just went, right, just defend this now. He didn't. He persisted with it. And he persisted and persisted and persisted because he could see that, actually, do you know what? We're playing really well here. Abdoulaye Doucouré is playing brilliantly. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is playing brilliantly. Dwight McNeil is working hard. Alex Iwobi's playing brilliantly. So I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to go defensive. I'm just going to continue. And we did do that. And ultimately, that is, he's been rewarded for that bravery. And as I said, with a win that could possibly be the catalyst now to keep us in the Premier League, it's ultimately it's disappointing and it's frustrating that our next game is against the soon-to-be champions. But if we can go out there against Manchester City and, at least work hard, battle, give everything, fight, try and emulate that performance against Brighton in terms of hitting them on the counter-attack, defending well, defending strongly. Even if we do lose that game, if we can do that in the right manner and perform in the right manner and attack the game in the right manner, then I don't think we'll lose too much from losing that game. Plus, it's very possible we can get something out of that game. Everton are notorious for getting results in games that you simply don't expect. And I don't mean results like winning 5-1 away at Brighton. I'm more talking about results like drawing 2-2 with Chelsea at Stamford Bridge when nobody expected it. I mean results like drawing 1-1 with Manchester City at the Etihad on New Year's Eve when everybody had us starting to be absolutely spanked. It's very possible Everton can get something out of that game. If Everton win that game, then it pretty much sees us safe with 2 games to go, and it will be absolutely unbelievable. How possible is that? Well, we don't know. We'll wait and see. But the performance is key on the weekend, because there is a world in which we don't win that game, but we still clap the players off. We're still very proud of them, and then we go into Wolves pretty much with the same confidence as we're going into this game against Manchester City. Anyway, we'll talk about the Manchester City game later on in the week. We are here to talk about the Brighton win. As I said, I've criticised the manager a lot recently about his team selection and about his persistence to certain players when it's quite obvious that those players aren't good enough to be in the team. The manager did make changes on Monday evening. He brought in Yerry Mina for Michael Keane, which, although seemed like a pretty obvious decision to make, it was still a big decision. It was still a big decision to change that centre-back pair, and it was still a big decision for Sean Dyche ultimately to change his preferred, partnership at the back at this point in the season. He made that decision, and I don't think he made that decision, by the way, because, us Evertonians were calling for it. I don't think that was the case. I think he's made that decision off of his own back, and, okay, he's probably seen what we've seen, and that's why he's made the decision. But, I don't think it's a case of he's listened to people on Twitter or he's listened to me on here and he's gone, actually, yeah, I'll do that. I think he's probably just thought, maybe a change is necessary here. And it was, and rightly so. He obviously brought Nathan Patterson in at right back and trusted him to be able to do that job, as opposed to trying to play somebody out of position that, maybe is a bit more experienced than Nathan Patterson. Thought Nathan Patterson was absolutely unbelievable. And another big decision he made, which he's not getting a massive amount of credit for, but I think he deserves a massive amount of credit for, is keeping James Garner in that midfield. It would have been so easy for Sean Dyche to have gone, right, okay, Onana's back now. We missed last week through illness. He's fit again now. I'm reverting back to Onana, Garner and Doucouré, because they're my midfield three. They're the midfield three I've started with, and they're the midfield three that, I see the future with, whatever. But he didn't. He watched James Garner's performance on last Monday against Leicester City, and he thought, no, do you know what? He has not done anything to deserve to be dropped out of this team. And he hadn't. By the way, James Garner was fantastic against Leicester City. He'd done nothing to deserve to be dropped. So whilst he still had Onana there and available, he didn't bring him back in just for the sake of it. He decided to give James Garner another opportunity and say to James Garner, well, you're playing well, so you're still in the team. And almost make a point to Amadou Onana of saying, if you want to get back in this team, you've got to outperform this kid, because he's doing really well at the moment. And what happens when Onana comes on? He comes on, he plays a world-class pass, and he ends up getting himself an assist, which, again, is more than Onana's done in months at Everton in terms of his contribution to a game. So that was a really big decision as well that, I felt took a lot of bottle to make, and he did, and he made it, and it was absolutely spot on. And Everton started the game perfectly, absolutely perfectly. 30-odd seconds into the game, whatever it was, Nathan Patterson wins the ball back brilliantly, puts a decent block in, steps up, and really closes that space. It gets it to Alex Iwobi. Alex Iwobi plays his first wonderful ball of the day. One of many, by the way. I've criticised Alex Iwobi's final product and Alex Iwobi's distribution of late, but I thought it was spot on Monday night. Plays it into Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And although, Dom, the defender, isn't absolutely tight to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it's Still an absolutely unbelievable bit of skill. An absolutely unbelievable bit of skill by Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It just, you can't half tell that he has worked on that turn, whether it be when he was injured, whether it be when he's returned to Finch Farm, or whether it just be he's found that he's quite good at doing it, so he's persisted with doing it. That skill and composure to do that in that moment, in the first 33 seconds of the game, when, for me, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's only got one thing in his head there: I'm going to turn this kid, I'm going to get on my bike, and I'm going to create an opportunity for myself. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. We've seen him do it against Palace and he made half a yard for himself. He took a shot and he was unlucky. We've seen him do it against Palace at Goodison earlier on in the season. That's how he scored. He done a flick similarly. And we've seen him try and do it in a couple of games and it's maybe not come off as well as he would have wanted it. But it come off perfectly. It come off absolutely perfectly on Monday night. It's a great turn, and once he's turned, he's away from the defender. There's the defender's body, the defender's weight is completely unbalanced, and Dom makes a belt and run into the box. Really good bit of pace, and the cutback is brilliant as well, because not only, if you watch it again, it looks so easy, doesn't it? You get the ball to a wide area, there's one defender in the box, there's one attacker, you cut the ball back, and as long as it gets to the attacker, it's a goal. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you can cut the ball and it's got too much pace on it. Sometimes it's got not enough pace on it. Sometimes it's a brilliantly weighted ball, but it's too close to the defender and the defender gets there first. What Dom did, and what they've clearly worked on in training, because Abdoulaye Doucouré knew how to attack it, was he cut the ball back. So he doesn't just cut the ball straight across goal or like back slightly. He cuts it back quite significantly. And Doucouré has already made that drop back. So the defenders don't know they're going to do that. So the defenders are coming here to defend, expecting this ball to come across. The ball goes behind them. The defenders are already here. And Doucouré's behind them to finish what was a pretty comfortable finish. And all of a sudden, 33 seconds into the game, we're 1-0 up. And I'm sure, you all felt the same as I did. I sat there and thought, right, is it possible for us to sit everybody behind the ball for 89.5 minutes and win this game? Maybe. We've done it before. We've done it against Brentford this season. Is it probable? Probably not, because we're away from home, and if we invite the pressure, Brighton will grow in confidence and they're likely to at least get one goal. But that is what goes through your mind, isn't it? Because, no Evertonian at that point was thinking, right, well, we'll just go and do that again, and score 5 goals. Because it's unfathomable. The last time we seen Everton win 5-1 away was against Burnley, and Burnley were nowhere near the side that Brighton are, and Everton were in good form at that time, and nowhere near, as bad as we are now. So it was unfathomable that we would continue in the way in which we started. So I think we all thought, right, great, we're 1-0 up, just defend now and keep everything out. But we didn't. And yes, whilst Brighton still, got forward and tried to test down that right-hand side, and, they had a little bit of luck at the beginning of the game from Nathan Patterson, but I thought Nathan Patterson quickly grew into the game and quickly, sort of found his feet and found his rhythm, and all of a sudden, was stopping those crosses coming in. As I said, I thought James Tarkowski and Yerry Mina were absolutely pivotal in those moments where Brighton were getting forward and trying to attack and putting a long ball into the box, and they'd get it out, or trying to get round the back and they'd get it out. Same with Garner, both Garners actually. We done the play ratings yesterday, and I spoke about how in the first half they were pivotal. They were absolutely pivotal to the way in which we performed, because they were picking up the ball on the edge of the box. They were nicking the ball on the edge of the box. They were, whenever Brighton was trying to get forward, they were the first point of the counter-attack, because they'd nick it and he wouldn't do anything silly with it. He wouldn't try and, take 3 players on and get out of possession. They'd just nick it and give it. Nick it and give it to Doucouré. Nick it and give it to Iwobi. Nick it and give it to Dwight McNeil. They'd just get it back and nick it. And that goes unnoticed sometimes, because you as a fan are watching, you go from, shit, Brighton have got the ball in a dangerous area here, to within seconds, oh my God, Iwobi's breaking, or McNeil's breaking, or Doucouré's breaking. But they're breaking because one of those 2 centre mids has nicked that ball back and give it off straight away, sorry. And I thought they'd done that brilliantly, and, not long after, Everton have, again, Brighton attempting sort of knocking on the door. They haven't had many big chances at this point, but they're sort of knocking on the door. Decore picks it up, gives it, goes, and then as soon as he gives that ball to, I think it's Iwobi, isn't it? Iwobi gives it to McNeil. How many times this season have we seen Dwight McNeil in a crossing opportunity, with a crossing opportunity, and nobody being in the box? Now, okay, we haven't had Dominic Calvert-Lewin for pretty much all of the season through injury, and that's fine, and that's understandable, and again, that's not his fault. But how many times have we seen one of the wide players, or Gray, or whoever it may be, with the ball in a good crossing area, and you're looking on the pitch, and Decore's not in the box, Onana's not in the box, Garner's not in the box, and you're thinking, well, how are we meant to score on the counter if you've only got one wide player running with the ball and everybody else is sort of 20 yards behind them? That changed. Decore nicked the ball back, he gave it to Iwobi, I think it eventually went to McNeil, and then he ran 60 yards up the pitch to keep up with Dwight McNeil, who ran 60 yards, and he ran completely unmarked on his own up the pitch. And as I said, McNeil gets into a good crossing area. Dominic Calvert-Lewin occupies those three defenders, and they leave Decore absolutely on his own. And not only is it an absolute peeler of a cross into the box by Dwight McNeil, and listen, I'm going to go through Dwight McNeil's individual stats to this game when we've spoken about all the goals and towards the end of the live stream. But if you've been here for, well, the last 24 hours, you'll know that I absolutely love Dwight McNeil, and I think Dwight McNeil is an absolutely unbelievable footballer, and I think he has had poor games, and he's not the most gifted, and he's not the quickest, and this, that, and the other, but I think for what he's got an extremely good left foot, like a fucking rocket, pardon the language, and his work rate at the moment is unmatched. And the ball he puts into the box is phenomenal, and the finish is even better. And it's the finish of a player who is playing with confidence, and it's the finish of a team playing with confidence. Decore had a couple of options there. He could have took it down and then shot. He could have panicked and volleyed it over the bar. He could have panicked, took it down, and then got the ball caught between his feet. All things we've seen Decore do numerous times before, and numerous times this season, by the way. But he didn't. He was confident. He believed in himself. The ball was perfectly weighted up to him, and it's not an easy finish by any sense of the imagination. To volley that from there into the back of the net past the goalkeeper is not an easy finish at all. But he doesn't take any of that into consideration. The one thing on his mind is, I'm volleying this into the back of the net. It falls to him, he volleys it in the back of the net. All of a sudden, Everton are 2-0 up in the opening, half an hour of the game, 25 minutes of the game, and you're sitting there thinking, right, okay, this is different. We are not only defending well, we all knew from the beginning of the game, regardless of what result was going to happen, even if you'd have said to me on the preview, Cam, I've got crystal ball, I've just looked into the future, Everton win this game 5-1, I'd have still said to you, right, okay, well, it's probably a perfect masterclass counter-attack performance, and Brighton still probably have all of the possession, because they were always going to have all of the possession, and we defended really well, and we countered perfectly, and we have seen Everton do this season. We saw it against Leicester. We just weren't as good in the counter-attack. The final ball wasn't as good, or the finish wasn't as good, or the players weren't playing with as much confidence. We've seen us defend well, hit teams on the counter, and just not take those chances because we've been without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, or, as I said, that midfielder hasn't made that gut-busting run into the box, or Dwight McNeil's final ball hasn't been good enough, or Iwobi's final ball hasn't been good enough. But we've seen the sort of skeleton of that type of tactical performance before, and this was the perfect execution of that. And the moment it goes 2-0, you're sort of sitting there thinking, right, this is unusual. Obviously, we're all still sitting there absolutely shitting ourselves. I mean, I sat there, I didn't calm down until it went 4-0. And even when it went 4-1, I'll be honest, I was still calmer 4-1. I was, because I thought, if we lose from this point, then it will be horrendous. But a 3-0, even a 3-0 with 20 minutes to go, there wasn't one part of me that was confident Everton were going to win that game. At half-time, I was sat there with my girlfriend's mum and dad, and they looked at me and they both said, "You're 3-0 up at half-time. You've won the game. You're not gonna concede 3 goals in the second half. You've won the game. What are you worrying about?" And I sat there and I said, because if Everton concede in the first 5-10 minutes of this second half, all of a sudden the confidence, is shaking, heads start to wobble a little bit, players start to get a bit, under the cosh. The Brighton fans get up for it. Brighton all of a sudden smell blood and think to go for it. Then you've got 40 minutes to try and keep 2 goals out, and it's not hard to score 2 goals in 40 minutes, trust me. So I wasn't confident at any point until it went 4-0, and then it went 4-1 very quickly. But even at 4-1, I was thinking, right, I'm quite confident in the way we've performed today that we will at least win this game. Even if it's 4-3, we'll win this game. Then obviously it went 5-1. But as I said, the second goal was it was perfect counter-attacking, and that's when I sat there, and I was going to tweet this out, but I didn't because I knew I'd get pelters. That's when I sat there and I thought, that is proper counter-attacking at its best. You watch some of the best counter-attacks in football ever, world football, and as I've said to you before, I've watched Real Madrid win Champions Leagues by having very little possession, being pretty much, battered all game, but counter-attacking perfectly and defending perfectly. And that was the prime example of that. We defended perfectly and we counter-attacked perfectly. And as I said, Abdoulaye Doucouré deserves an immense amount of credit because he, his persistence and his urgency to run that 50-60 yards to get on the end of that ball isn't something that we've seen a lot from any Everton player, including himself. And it's very, very clear that Abdoulaye Doucouré is at his best playing as a box-to-box sort of number 8, number 10, whatever you want to call it, but a box-to-box midfielder that can breach into the opposition's box when he needs to. Because for me, he's our biggest goal-scoring threat from midfield. He's a bigger threat than Onana, he's a bigger threat than Garner, he's a bigger threat than James Garner. He's our biggest goal-scoring threat from the midfield. And we have to be able to utilise that for the next 3 games. Again, he's another one that we don't know whether he'll be here next season, but we have to be able to utilise that in the next 3 games. And he deserved his 2 goals, and as I said, the second one was a pearler. Okay, it was a wonderful cross, and it was wonderful by Dominic Calvert-Lewin to manoeuvre himself into that space to allow Doucouré to have that free space behind him. But the finish is absolutely phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal by Abdoulaye Doucouré, and he deserves all of the credit for that. He does. And then you're thinking, right, okay, we're still defending well. It's only 2-0. We're only half an hour into the game. Can we go and can we continue with this? Can you persist with this? And this is what I was talking about before about bravery from the manager. There were moments in this game where the manager could have changed it or tweaked it, or he could have, for lack of a better phrase, not had the cojones to continue in the way in which he did. At 1-0, he could have went, right, okay, 10 men behind the ball. At 2-0, he could have done that. At 3-0 at half-time, he could have said, right, I'm bringing Cody on, 5 at the back. Let's just see this out now. But he didn't at any point. He persisted with the game plan because the game plan was working, and he believed that the game plan would continue to work. And okay, that is, again, like everything in football, like the decision to not bring on any substitutes against Leicester. Had he have done that and we'd have won the game, we'd all be praising him. Had the manager have not changed something at a half-time on Monday night and Brighton would have scored early on and then went and scored another 2 and we'd have only drawn the game, we might be sitting here saying, why didn't he bring another defender on a 3-0? It's all, football is very if but and maybe, isn't it? But the bravery shown by Sean Dyche on Monday is the type of bravery that we will need from the players and the manager to keep us in this division. We then, again, similarly, under the cosh a little bit, Brighton getting forward, Brighton trying to break the play, and he didn't learn the lesson, Brighton, because we did this 4 or 5 times in the first half, and we could have and probably should have been 5-0 up at half-time, because they constantly got forward, and they constantly left that space in behind for us to break into. We did it again, we broke again, this time it's Alex Iwobi breaking, and Alex Iwobi had the opportunity to play an absolutely perfect ball into Abdoulaye Doucouré, which would have given Abdoulaye Doucouré a one-on-one and, given he was on a hat-trick, given his confidence, I would have put money on and burying it. He doesn't. So Obi plays it just a little bit, too in front of him, and all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, is that attack over? Is that moment gone now? Is that, is that an attack that, we just have to sort of, again, pick the bits up for and go again? But he didn't. Doucouré keeps it alive. He gives it to Dwight McNeil. Dwight McNeil gets in behind, and he puts the cross in, and, obviously it comes off the goalkeeper and it's in the back of the net. And, again, easy to look at that one and go, well, we were a bit fortunate there. We were a bit this, we were a bit that, we were a bit the other. But reality is, if it doesn't hit the goalkeeper, it goes into Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin puts it in for 3-0. It does hit the goalkeeper, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, literally, with my girlfriend and her mum and dad going, what is happening? Everton are 3-0 up away from home and absolutely dominating. And I know people are going, you can't dominate with 23% possession. We were dominating one of the best teams in the country at this point, and it wasn't through outrageously bad performance by Brighton by any sense of the imagination. Were Brighton on their top form? No. Could they have been better? Well, yes, clearly, but it wasn't like they were awful or giving the ball away or making silly individual mistakes. Brighton just performed how Brighton perform every week. Everton just had the kryptonite to that and were able to execute that plan perfectly. And when was the last time we were able to sit here and say Everton have executed a plan perfectly? But they did. 3-0 up, and you're thinking, oh my God, is this just going to continue? Are we just going to continue hitting them on the counter-attack and scoring? And we very nearly did. We very nearly got a fourth. Very similar situation. Again, we get into a good area. I think, again, it's McNeil. Puts it across the box. And James Garner latches onto it, takes the shot. It actually goes past the goalkeeper, but it's blocked on the line. I think it was Dunk blocked it on the line. And that was just before half-time. Then the half-time whistle is going, and only Evertonians could do this, by the way. And I know most of you watching did this, so don't lie and say, no, I was cool and I was calm. I know most of you did this, because I did this. The moment that ball was blocked off of the line, I sat there and went, that was it. That was 4-0. Do you know, as if it was 0-0? Or as if we were 2-1 down with 10 minutes to go? Or as if we were only 1-0 up and we had the chance to extend the lead? I sat there at 3-0 when we didn't score our fourth at the end of the first half and said, that could have been it. And that's just because I'm used to Everton missing big chances, and the general feeling be, that's an opportunity we've squandered that could come back and bite us in the arse, even though we were 3-0 up at half time. But again, it was really unlucky. It was a well-worked move, another well-worked move on the counter, and it was a good shot, to be fair, and it was just unlucky that it was saved. It was blocked on the line. But we go in at half time, and as I said before, none of us were calm, none of us were confident, none of us were sitting here. I'm pretty confident in saying every other team in the Premier League are 3-0 up at half time. Their fans will be sat there going, yeah, put the kettle on, put the tea on, get me the paper, this is done and dusted, we've won this game. I wasn't. I was sitting there thinking, if these get one in the first 10 minutes of the second half, then there's every chance we lose this game. And I remember saying, I'd take a point at this point. And as much as I wanted to believe I was joking at that point, I genuinely did sit there at 3-0 and went, well, we're not likely to lose this game, and a point wouldn't be too bad. And that is just that's the pessimism of within me, being an Evertonian, and I'm witnessing what I've witnessed as an Evertonian over the last 25 years. But like I mentioned, it was important for Sean Dyche to be able to persist with what he did. We all knew at half time that there was going to be 10-15 minutes of a pure onslaught by Brighton. We knew that because every team does it when you're down and you're losing the game and you're at home and you come out for the second half. Every team has that spell of 10, 15, 20 minutes where the fans are up for it, they're confident, the players are up for it, they've been screamed at in the dressing room. Maybe the manager's made a couple of changes, and De Zerbi did. He made 4 changes at half time. They were always going to have that period in the game. I mean, Wizard, I don't even know why you're here, mate. you're wasting your time. Do me a favour and go and watch. I don't even know who you support, but it's clearly not Everton, so do me a favour and bounce. But as I said, it wasn't as easy as being 3-0 up at half time and the game being over. You knew that Brighton were going to make changes. Brighton were going to come out. Brighton were always going to be better in the second half because they couldn't have been much worse. Again, I don't think they were great, but I don't think when I say they weren't awful, they didn't make any silly individual mistakes. Their goalkeeper was a little bit poor and probably could have done better maybe for the third goal, but it wasn't like, they were giving away a penalty or their players were losing their head. We were just brilliant. We were just absolutely brilliant at everything we did, but you knew that they were going to come out and they were going to be much better. And as I said, bravery, decision-making, in-game decision-making, the manager could have changed it. He could have said, right, we're 3-0 up, I'm going to bring Alex Iwobi off, or I'm going to bring, Dwight McNeil off, and I'm going to put, Connor Cody in there, and I'm going to make it 5 at the back. And all of a sudden, if he does that, and we concede one of those opportunities in the first 20 minutes of the second half, which we very much could have, then the confidence really does drop, because not only have we conceded the goal and they only now need 2 goals in 40 minutes to get back in the game, or in half an hour to get back in the game, but also we've changed it. So we've now not got the same attacking threat as we did in the first half. We now haven't got the same intensity. We haven't got the same confidence. So it becomes really difficult then. So I do think Dice deserves a lot of credit for showing that bravery to persist with the same lineup, because it's easy to go, well, we played well and we were winning 3-0, so why would he make a change? Because we were 3-0 up at half-time in a relegation battle. A lot of managers would have gone, right, let's make a defensive change and sit behind this. He didn't, and obviously he was rewarded for that. We come out in the second half, and obviously Brighton have what we expected them to have. They have a spell of 15, 20 minutes where they are the team on top. They're getting forward. They're throwing everything at us. They switch their attack from our right-hand side to our left-hand side. I think they realised that they weren't getting any good from Nathan Patterson, because he was defending so well, he was working so hard, he was playing so well, so they switched it to Vitaly Mykolenko, who I thought played well, but again, I think he was just beaten for pace a couple of times. I think he was just beaten purely because, I think Solly March, before he got his injury, was finding luck down that left-hand side. And this is where you need your big game players. This is where you need your big moment players. This is where you need your world-class players. And I don't care what anybody says. By the way, I don't, whether you're a blue or whether you're you're not a blue. I don't care what anybody says. Jordan Pickford is a world-class goalkeeper. An absolute world-class goalkeeper, regardless of what people think. And I'm not even going to go into the reasons as to why he is in terms of his international pedigree and etc, etc. But the saves Jordan Pickford made in that game very well could keep Everton in the Premier League this season. And by that I mean, had he have not made those saves, then we would have almost certainly, through that game in regards to winning it, we might have still got a point, but we'd have dropped a couple of points. The confidence would have been on the floor, and we may not have gone and got a result in the next few that we might now go and get because of the confidence from this game. So those saves he made on Monday night could very well keep Everton in the Premier League, and that would be the second consecutive season that Jordan Pickford has kept Everton in the Premier League with his saves. The fella is world class. When we needed him most, he come up strong. We all knew Brighton were going to have 20 minutes. It was whether we could soak it up. And at times we did, but at times we didn't. At times they did get beyond the defender. At times they did. At times they did create that space and an opportunity for themselves. But for as much as people will go, well, that's Jordan Pickford's job to save goal. That's Jordan Pickford's, this, that and the other. It's also Keylor Navas's job, but he let 3 in last night. And, maybe in another game, they won't be as lucky to score 4 goals. It's also every other goalkeeper's job in Wales football, but they still leak goals, don't they? Jordan Pickford made 3 world-class saves. And I don't use that word lightly. World-class save. The save from Evan Ferguson, the header that he tips onto the bar, is world-class. The save from, Alexis McAllister, when it's ruled offside, but it was tight and it may have gone to VAR and may have been given, where he gets down and he tips it onto the post, is world class. He made another one where there was players in front of his view, where he managed to dive and tip it round the corner, which was world class. He come up huge when we needed him most. And in that spell of 20 minutes where even if one of those chances goes in, it's a completely different game, and it's a much harder task for Everton to see through. He stopped that from happening. And it is his job, but it's also a striker's job to score goals. But that doesn't mean every Premier League striker gets 30 a season, does it? You know, Erling Haaland's getting the plaudits for breaking the records and scoring 35 goals, etc. You could say that's his job, because it is his job. His job's to score goals, but he doesn't. He gets the plaudits because we know it's not easy to score goals in the Premier League, and that's why Jordan Pickford deserves the plaudits. He's made 3 world-class saves there that certainly won Everton that game. And okay, you know, we can talk about Doucouré winning Everton the game with his goals, or McNeil winning Everton the game. Those saves were equally as important to that win. They really, really were. And they were fantastic, and they come at the times when we needed them. And Brighton still hit the bar a couple of times, and Brighton still had a couple of other opportunities, but Jordan Pickford come up big when we needed him to come up big. And so did Yerry Mina, by the way, who again also was colossal in that period of onslaught, shall we say, by Brighton. And every one of us, again, every single one of us sat there in not 15, 20 minutes, basically behind the couch or behind the sofa, or if you were in the stadium, behind your coat, thinking, fucking hell, don't do this. Not one of us sat there and went, 3-0 up, we'll be all right. Every one of us will have sat there like, oh, just take it. I remember looking at the clock, and it was 62 minutes. 62 minutes, I remember looking at the clock. And I remember thinking, that was the longest 17 minutes of my life. The longest. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. The longest 17 minutes of my life. It felt like about 3 days, because I looked up and I thought, it's got to be at least 80 now. Got to be at least 80. 62 minutes. And that was what we expected. We expected Brighton to come out strong. We expected Brighton to ultimately come flying and come and try and, change the game. That's why they made 4 subs at half time. And it's almost like De Zerbi knew that the game was still there to get something out of at 3-0, because it's almost like he knew this Everton team have got previous of conceding and completely folding. But they didn't. As I said, we defended really well again. You know, despite the fact that we were all absolutely shitting ourselves, Jordan come out with 3 or 4 huge saves. As I said, 3 of them for me were completely world class, and he made another 2 or 3 that were really, really good saves as well. And then we do what nobody expected at the time, but was a basic repeat of the first half, only on a lesser scale. The first half, Brighton were getting forward, but they weren't really threatening. They didn't really look themselves. They didn't really particularly look... it didn't particularly look like they were as free-flowing or had as much intensity as they maybe had done before. In the second half, they did do that, but we didn't change the plan. We didn't think, right, we're just going to sit back now because they've had 10 minutes. We let them have their moment. We let them have their 10, 15 minutes of getting at us, and then when we got our chance, we hit again, and we countered again. And this time, again, we find ourselves in a good area. We get forward. Dwight McNeil leaves Solly March. Solly March has gone down with whatever injury he's gone down with. Leaves Solly March. Gets himself into a good position. Iwobi plays a wonderful ball back into him. Gives it to Iwobi. Iwobi plays a wonderful ball back into him. Again, as I said, I've criticised Iwobi for his distribution recently. I've criticised Iwobi for his final ball recently. Thought it was perfect on Monday night. And Dwight McNeil... I spoke before about Doucouré and about Doucouré's volley and about how I don't think Doucouré hits that volley 2 or 3 months ago. I think he panics. I think he probably tries to take it down, and I think he's caught in 2 minds at what to do. Similarly with Dwight McNeil, for me. Dwight McNeil 2 months ago panics with that and probably hits it first time or tries to do too much with it, and Dunk comes in and Dunk makes the block or the goalkeeper makes the save or whatever it may be. I just think Dwight McNeil panics and therefore we miss that opportunity. But you could see he's playing with such confidence. He's playing with such ease. And Dwight McNeil deserves a ridiculous amount of credit for his defensive work as well. Because in that second half, when we were under the cosh, when we were under the pressure, defensively, he was perfect. I mean, the Blues says that McNeil performance was one of the best I've seen all round. Me too. You will struggle to see a better individual performance than that at any point this season with any player across any of the teams. It was that good. And it wasn't just that good because of his going forward and his goals. It was that good because when we needed him to defend and to help out, he did that as well. But this goal was just the epitome, wasn't it? You know, he's calm, he's cool, he's collected, he's confident. He allows Dunk to slide in, he allows the keeper to dive in, and he just goes, "Think, see you later." And he walks the ball into the net with his hands in the air. And I'm sitting there. And this was at the first point I thought we've won this game because it hit me. I sat there on the couch and I literally said out loud, I've just watched an Everton player round the goalkeeper and walk the ball into the net to put us 4-0 up away from home. What the fuck am I watching? What is this? What have you done to Everton? What's going on? And that was when I sort of thought, do you know what? These players have soaked up that onslaught. So even though it did go 4-1 pretty much straight away, I was still confident because I believed, you know what, if they were ever going to throw it, if there was ever going to be a moment to sort of throw the game and allow them back in the game, it would have been those 20 minutes before the fourth goal. And when we'd soaked that up, even though they'd gone and scored after the fourth, I was still quite confident that we'd be able to see that out because I was confident in the players' confidence, which I think is really important. Yeah, McNeil rounds the goalkeeper and just, walks it in. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God. And I did almost, when he was walking it, he seemed that calm and that cool and that not arsed. I did think he was going to sort of put the ball on the line and sit on it for a second and then like knock it in with his arse or something. He just seemed so blasé about it. Blasé about scoring a goal in a massive game for Everton to put us 4-0 up. And that shows the confidence of as I said, of him and the team at that time. Brighton then obviously go up and get a goal. And as I said, you know, undeservingly for Jordan Pickford. I think Jordan didn't deserve to concede like that. He deserved the clean sheet from that game. But yeah, again, Everton managed the game well, try and see it out, make a couple of subs. Obviously, we bring on Neil Maupay for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who I thought Dom was absolutely tremendous. I thought Dom was absolutely tremendous for the entirety of the 90 for the time he played. I thought it was one of the best number 9 performances I've seen in a while from anybody, and he didn't even score. Onana come on, and as I said before, Onana, bit of a point to prove, got to do something to try and force his way back into this team. Picks the ball up, plays a wonderful ball to Dwight McNeil, and Dwight McNeil at this point, I don't know what's more impressive, the actual finish and the actual goal, or the fact that Dwight McNeil is still making a gut-busting run into the opposition box in the 93rd minute when we're 4-1 up. The game's won. The game's done and dusted. We weren't conceding 3 goals or 4 goals. At that point, the game's done. And he still is making that gut-busting run into the box with seconds to go. And he seems to have got faster as well. Does anybody else think that? If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit the like button. It only takes a second. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new. But he seems to have got faster as well. Anyway, he bursts into the box. I've thought he's taken the shot a little bit wide. I've thought, take it to the corner, see it out, let it be full time. Dwight McNeil's gone, you know what, lad? Nah. Why would I do that when I can just absolutely thunderbolt it into the top corner? Why would I want to have the ball central when I hit it, when I could just make the target? It's like Dwight McNeil had got bored. Like, he got bored with, rounding the goalkeeper and then having an easy goal, and he thought, no, do you know what? I'm going to make this a bit more difficult for myself because I'm a bit bored here. He makes the angle extremely tight, and then he just swats it into the roof of the net. And at that point, I am generally just sitting there like that. And I swear down, I sat there and watched the last 20 seconds after that fifth goal, just like, what? And as I said, I think Onana deserves a lot of credit because I think the pass was fantastic. The fifth goal, as I said, Dwight McNeil. I mean, let's have a little look at Dwight McNeil's stats. 100% take-ons completed, 45 touches, 13 touches in the opposition box, 9 duels won, 8 times possession won, 5 take-ons, 4 shots, 3 fouls won, 3 chances created, 2 shots on target, 2 goals, 1 assist, and 1 phantom assist, which was, of course, the own goal because he put the cross in. I said it in the player ratings yesterday. It's not a word that is used very often to describe anything in life. However, I don't think you could get more perfect than that Dwight McNeil performance yesterday. On Monday, sorry. I don't think he could have done much more. It was perfection. It was the best performance I've seen from an Everton forward in years. Absolute years. And he deserves that more than anybody. Because of his work rate, because of his effort, because of his determination, because of his desire. He deserves that more than anybody. I've criticised him before, but I also sat here at the start of the season and said I've got a good feeling about this kid and I think that he'll go on and score 10 goals. And I got laughed out the room. Well, he's on 7 now. If he can go and get 3 in the next 3, which is very possible, then he hits that double figures mark. He scored the same amount of goals in this season as a certain other winger did in his entire career at Everton before he left in January. And I do get the feeling that Dwight McNeil is only going to get better and better and better and better. And let's have it right as well. Let's have it right. He done that away from home against one of the best footballing teams in the country. And he just, for lack of a better phrase, took the piss. I love him. I think the kid's brilliant and he deserved that and he was my man of the match. And okay, Pickford kept us in the game and Zakore was brilliant and Dom was brilliant, but Dwight McNeil just epitomised everything as what it means to be an Evertonian. He had the rough start, criticised, and as soon as the new managers come in, he seems to be rejuvenated. And even in games we haven't won or he hasn't scored in, we've still always sat here and gone, he worked his arse off today, Dwight McNeil, he defended well. And he did all of that on Monday and got himself 2 goals and effectively 2 assists. Brilliant performance. And the final whistle goes and, well, you could see from my instant match reaction, that instant match reaction was literally filmed seconds after the final whistle was blown. And I am, I'm not speechless because I talked for 20 minutes on it, but there is moments where you can see me just sort of sitting there thinking, what, how, why, when, where was that? Where did that come from? And you know what? Before I go, I just want to say, I am absolutely over the moon. Not only because Everton have won a game of football and given us more confidence and could we now stay up, etc., etc., but for those travelling fans, that journey to Brighton is horrendous. It's the other end of the country. It's miles away. It's hours and hours and hours on a coach or hours in a car or hours on a train on a bank holiday Monday. Most of those fans wouldn't have got home till early hours of Tuesday morning and they'll have been in work Tuesday morning as well. I've been all around the country watching Everton and it is horrid. I've been to London on midweek days, Mondays, Wednesdays, and we've lost 4-0, 5-0, 4-1, 3-1, and you've got work the next morning, you're not going to get home till silly o'clock in the morning, and it is horrendous. Nobody deserves that performance more than those Evertonians that were in the Amex on Monday night. Nobody. Because I know lads that were there and lads that were there on Monday night that have been at every away game for the last 6-7 years. And they're only my age, so that means they've gone pretty much every away game since they were a kid. Other adults that will have gone every away game for 20, 30 years plus, etc. They deserve that. And don't get me wrong, I'm gutted I wasn't there. I'm absolutely gutted I wasn't there, but nobody deserves that more than those Evertonians. And they weren't just singing and shouting when we were 4-0 up or 5-1 up or whatever. They were singing and shouting from the first second The first second, for all as they knew, we were going to get absolutely battered on that day. Like we've been absolutely battered pretty much everywhere we've gone this year. But it didn't stop them from screaming and shouting and singing their heart out from the first second. And there's not a fan base on this planet that deserves a performance like that more than ours. And I'm made up for every man, woman, child, and anything in between that was in that Everton end, screaming and shouting, and made up with that performance. I'm made up for them because they deserve it more than anything. They do. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. A truly monstrous performance by Sean Dyche's Everton. A monstrous performance by the manager for making the right decisions and for having the bravery to continue with those decisions and continue with the plan. A monstrous performance from the players to be able to, to perform that plan to perfection. Players like Dwight McNeil, as I've mentioned, Akorde, Yerry Mina, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Jordan Pickford, Nathan Patterson, everybody, Alex Iwobi, James Garner, Garner Gay, James Tarkowski, Mikalenko, Onana when he come on, Mope. Trying to think if I've missed somebody. I don't think I have. Everybody. And a monstrous performance from those Evertonians as well. Brilliant. Let's hope that we can continue with that one. Obviously, a massively difficult game at the weekend against Manchester City. But if you can get anything out of that, it would be a bonus. But even if we can't get anything out of it, let's go and put a performance in that at least makes us sit there and go, do you know what? These players are playing with confidence. These players can get at our teams and give us that confidence going into the final 2 games of the season, because this isn't over. As I said at the start of this of the video, really good win, unbelievable. We should enjoy every second of it, but it isn't over. We went into the final 4 games of last season only needing 1 win, and we didn't get it until the penultimate game. And think of how nervous and anxious we all were in that at a half-time against Crystal Palace. So let's hope that's not the case again this season. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And we'll see you soon.